You know, we always practice the day after on a Sunday, kind of like, how football does it a little bit. I always like to, after a game, whether you win it or lose it, that next day, kind of put it to bed, and you have to give them an off day, and you want to, a week. So then it's Tuesday that's usually off. So by doing that, when you have an extremely, it's usually the higher elation game. That's always harder, actually, because you're pretty wired. Then you come in, and a lot of the players are a little sore, the ones that played a lot of minutes. But I thought they got it. It wasn't, obviously the intensity of a practice coming off of that weekend, but I think they understood that they understand the mission, and they know that it's not that long ago, where we were just coming up short. So I think it was just a really great moment, but they understand that there could be some really greater moments ahead, and that really starts with Thursday night.
You never want to have a losing streak, but having that losing streak, do you feel like that helps with the focus after the big win, knowing, hey, like we've already been through a losing streak, like that can happen?
Yeah, I think, I just think going through any adversity, right, once you get a little farther from it, you can see the good that came out of it, but you don't really want to go back. So I think they're cognizant of it, but we don't spend a lot of time about it. We're just more about, okay, we're building, we're stacking, stacking good play. And that's, I think, the thing that I'm most excited about is that we've been stacking pretty consistently some good, better play. Starting that Washington game, had some, not great minutes and quarters, against, Northwestern, but they're really, pretty competitive, Northwestern is. So I was happy with how we competed. It looked better. The flow was better, with the exception when we didn't handle the pass at USC in the USC game. So what I'm looking for is that continued growth in what we're flowing or how we're flowing. And if we do that, then hopefully another win will be stacked.
I'm sure you're treating every practice the same as you were a couple weeks ago, but in terms of what you see out of the team during practices, do you sense a little bit more energy, more spirit these last couple days compared to where you were at a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I really think back, our practice in Seattle, at Seattle University, the intensity of which they attacked that practice was tremendous. I mean, down, disappointed, but they've really showed up all the time. This will be the first time I've seen them since Monday's practice, and Monday's practice was solid. It wasn't great, it wasn't bad, it was kind of how you feel after an elation, and the coaches are usually trying to set that standard. So I will be very surprised if they don't look like that same team, because there's only been maybe 2 practices since we all got together where I think we're not great, maybe. And I don't even think one of those was during that skid. So hopefully, to go back to your point, I don't want to talk about that growing period of adversity, but I would like to think it's certainly a motivator.
So are you to the point where you expect the same defensive intensity every game now, like what you got
Yeah.
against USC? How do you sustain
Yeah,
that?
well, that's been us the whole thing. So I don't think that was, it just got showcased because we were playing a top 4 team. But I think the reason we had the success we have had has started with our defense. So it needs to continue. I just think that particular game, it got a lot more hype because we were playing one of the nation's greatest players. But our defense has to be there, because that's what I've been really saying. When we graduated that many people, that was the area I thought we could kind of, lessen a gap. And I think for the most part, it really has held, and it needs to, because our offense, we can go some stretches where we're not scoring. In the past, that didn't happen as much, largely due to, Caitlin just doesn't let that ball be idle. So yes, to your question, but I do think our defense has been why we've really have been in every single game.
As pivotal as moving on is, you obviously want to move on with the confidence gained from Sunday, whether it's Lucy or Leah, Addie, anyone, just how much do you feel like that is the case and that, there is a stronger belief in
Yeah.
everything that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what you have to hope now, because I think when you go through the slide that we did is, I really truly believe we were always closer than farther, because I saw more moments of what you saw in the USC than what you guys could see sometimes in just the games. And what you like to think as a coach is when they get one of those, right? Then everything that you've been trying to instill and set them up for when they make the play, when they get the stop, and then they get such a moment of jubilation, it's like, yeah, we can. Let's go. Let's continue. But it's a peculiar thing when you are coming out of one of those adverse times. That also takes time to build up. So when you're going in, it'd be nice if you had the next one at home too, to kind of get a little bit more building on that confidence and that inner belief. So that'll be the big challenge going into a rivalry game at Minnesota. They're having a really great year, especially with the loss of Mara Braun. Dawn and her staff really, I think, Dawn and I have been doing this a long time, and I'm really happy for her success. And that's hard to do without Mara Braun. Woodson's on the bench for him. So they're playing really, really well, and they're, a lot like us. They kind of flirted with that top 25, and they're right on the cusp of that. So it's not going to be an easy game to kind of keep that belief system up. But if we can do that, I think that'll really be the tale of the last, part of this season.
What stands out about Minnesota? What are the biggest challenges they identify?
They're just really balanced. They're almost everybody's in, like, 3 of them average 10, the others are 8, pushing 9. Sophie Hart is a really, just a solid, very productive post player. Her O boards, she's averaging about 4 O boards a game, and that's hard to do. That's great. So I think she's really solid. A lot of these kids have come to our camp, so you know them pretty well, and they're just really, really great players. Battle is, when she gets rolling, she's as good as anybody in the league. Her pull-up's really smooth. She runs the team really well. Rakalski, she just nails threes. She was a teammate of Tegan Mulaney. And those guys on the circuit were like rain and threes, right? She actually committed with Dawn to West Virginia. So then she followed her to here. But just the balance. And so that's just such a different shift of, we just got done with the team with Juju being mostly the center and Kiki. So now, and that's what's fun about the game plans. Just that, and anything happens in kind of a border war. It's just, they run a motion with different sets, and, they do a pretty good job, I think, trying to keep it out of the post, doubling every now and then. So we're going to have to be sharp.
They lead the Big Ten in fewest turnovers per game. What do you see their job security or ball security
Yeah.
wise that they do well?
We all like job security, right? They're just, Amaya was one of the best players in Minnesota Battle, and she's really smart. She doesn't make too many unforced mistakes. She takes what's there, and all of them play that way. They play within themselves, and they know their stuff really well. So they're not out to really make a wow pizzazz play and try to test the odds. And I think that's why their turnovers are down. They're just really, really sound, and they got a really great player running them. So that's what what I've watched. I've just been impressed with. They just kind of do what they do, and they do it really efficiently.
Looking at their defense, I was kind of surprised to see they've played 6 games against the net top 50, and they've allowed 65 threes on defense in those games. When you see a number like that, how do you kind of, what do you take away from that? Does 6 games feels like a big enough sample size to say maybe that's an issue for them?
Yeah, well, I think, they're probably playing analytics. They've played some, bets. They've doubled, right? Sarah Williams from Wisconsin, they doubled. Both of them are, the key cogs to those wheels. So I feel like you just, I don't know if that's who they are, they have been the whole year, or that's who they are when they're playing these centers. So when you do that, it does cause a lot of rotations. And then you're letting up a three, but sometimes that's the people you want to shoot it. You'd rather have, so-and-so shoot it than Lauren Betts. You'd rather have, they wanted anybody else on the Wisconsin roster to shoot it other than Sarah Williams. So I think that's why I wouldn't, to me, I don't know if I know that's an issue. I think it's a decision. And, for the most part, this worked out, I think, to where they got previously, because I think that's probably what they've been doing against some of the other posts. I just didn't watch anything too much in the non-con.
You mentioned the conversation you had with Lucy in the third quarter. Did anything change about the way she carried herself? Maybe
Well, I've kind of felt badly, like she did all that, but I just felt she was playing so tight. And I just know what she's capable of. I also know what it feels like to be a pleaser. Sometimes, I've grown up like that too. So she wants to do so well for everybody. And so when you're trying to get the look, you're trying to run the play, and you're, trying to make the read, that all of a sudden you're not your best. And then you can start to doubt. And I was just reminding her. And I don't even know if it was my reminder that helped or not. I'm just thrilled that she was able to, I think probably for the first time, really showcase what she's capable of doing. But now the trick for her too is to kind of harness that and to do that more consistently. But I just think, she came here with a lot of, different aspirations too. And we know the love of the fan base, but the weight of it, and you want to perform so well. So I was just really happy. And then her recognition this week in the conference and certainly nationally, it was just a really cool moment for her. So I'm hopeful that freedom, that's all I was trying to do, is just free her mind. And I'm not certain that I did anything, but I think it helped when she got one of those early ones to fall.
One thing Lisa
Yeah.
talked about when it got to be February, when she always talked about getting the double bye for the Big Ten tournament. You're kind of in position now where, stack a few more wins, you can avoid playing on Wednesday.
Right.
And, get into that 8-9 game or
Yeah.
something like that. Is that something?
Yeah,
in the
no,
back
I
of your
think,
mind?
my whole thing, it's always been, you always want to be playing your best basketball in February. So the thing that I was most thrilled about, well, equally, I suppose, it was great to get the win on that particular day against that particular opponent. But I think we showed that we've made some strides. Now, can we be consistent? And so if we're playing our best basketball in February, then that kind of, takes us into that we can now look realistically at that goal, right? So, earlier on, I didn't talk a whole lot about that because I knew how tough the big would be. And then when we got into it, then it was like, woo. Then another focus was just trying to, holding serve with, confidence. But I do think that is realistic. But I'm also realistic with how tough the league is. There's just so many, 50-50 games. The Indiana's, to me, right? Indiana, the Nebraska, anyone at home, Maryland. So those have, they didn't go our way. And so now we're playing, a few of those the next week here. But if we can get those to fall our way, then, yeah, I would love that. And I think that's a goal that we've had all of our years working together, and certainly one that I'll continue. But, now also with the big, the way it is, not everybody gets to go. So there's different tiers depending on, who's spiraling or who is aspiring. But that would be definitely a great goal, and that's what we're shooting for.
Along those lines.
Yeah.
So much that's talked about in the college basketball world right now is in context of what does it mean for the NCAA tournament, or what does it mean for this and that. Your teams of the past few years didn't seem to struggle with that very much. Is that something that you ignore, bring up?
Yeah,
Kind of how does that work?
It's it's been a while, right? So I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I think that I've talked about it earlier when we were, facing what we're, the adversity part. But I think it's the way you deliver it. It's kind of factual, right? It is, when you're in the skid, it's like, okay, well, this is what we got to do to get out, but this is what we got to do, long term. And so I mentioned it earlier, but my philosophy is the only thing that takes care of that is what we do today. And if you worry too much about what's going to happen at the end, then you really lose what you can accomplish today. So my philosophy is, obviously I'm new and we haven't been on that fence for a while, but it's just acknowledge it. This is, what happened to get us here. But if we just keep taking care of now, we can still hit where we'd like to be. And I think the interesting thing, and I wouldn't trust it one way or the other, if I was a mid-major or if I'm a power 4, you don't know what that committee is going to think. Sometimes they lean way, to like, the power 4s, no, too many get in. We're going to pay more attention here. Sometimes it's the other way, and it goes year to year. You have people complaining after the seeding, who gets left out, all the things. And this particular year with the expansion, I don't know what that committee is going to favor. So it's a unique year to be on the bubble because it's all brand new.
USC mentioned a couple of times in postgame how big the crowd played a factor in the game. It was a big recruiting weekend for you guys. I've read what some of the recruits said about it from what these guys have reported. How big of an advantage in recruiting is a crowd and a fan base with that level of energy, and how big on like an on-court effect does a crowd like that?
Yeah, I think the crowd was amazing, and it's been amazing. I think it's a tremendous advantage. I don't think there's a whole lot of universities doing what we're doing. There's a small handful. The recruits we have on campus, they're looking at all of them. So we can be here and be like, oh yeah, but if we probably went into South Carolina's environment, right? It probably looks a whole lot like that, but whatever their colors are, maroon and white or black and all that. So I'm thankful for it, and I just love another shout out to our great fan base for all that they did on Sunday, but the whole year. It is very helpful. Just a new world. Collectives and rev share, whole new world. You can think that this is important, but at the end of the day, it's a whole different rules and what's important, and the recruiting world has changed. So to me, college environment like that, to me, that's priceless. But it's there's a few of us doing that, so I think they enjoyed it. I was happy that they enjoyed it, but just a different game. So we're just trying to be who we are, doing what we do, but I think that's the outlier right now, and everybody's just trying to figure it out.
How much can Caitlin recruit for you just by being Caitlin?
I think she'll always do that, just like Michael Jordan will always be part of Carolina. She just is, will always be a part of that. But I do think, when you get here and the game goes on, you play for 40 minutes, and it's just more of a pride factor. And to me, the way Caitlin carries herself and how Kate carries herself and Gabby Marshall, they all recruit, because when people get to meet them, it's like, wow, they're just sharp, Iowa, tell me more. And so we'll forever, and same way with Megan Gustafson and Kathleen Doyle, is we just have some really amazing women who are now out there. Caitlin just happens to be her, right, in a worldwide scale. So, but I would say, Caitlin is Hawkeye forever through and through, and it's a aspect of who we are, but it's not something that any of us are utilizing as a key cog. It's just part of what we do, and that's who she is, and hopefully a large part of how she got there was what happened with this fan base and the staff and this administration. So it's a big part of it, but I'm just thankful she played here. But it's the here and now. Even though that's great and we love it, it'll always, I think, be the here and now, just like it was when Sam Logic graduated and Megan is. Caitlin just happens to be so major, but it will forever be, what have you done for me lately?